This is my book. I published it 20 years ago, and it's a bestseller again on Islam. Now, this is a map. The red is the Roman Empire, and the white is Christianity. And see how it spreads all the way through the Middle East and over to northern India and Persia, and even to China with the Tang Dynasty, up into Europe, Britain, and then it's going to jump over with Patrick into Ireland, coming in the 400s, and there we go. And then North Africa is all Christian, and look down there. And then when we get up to around the year 622, something happens green. What is that? Whoa, oh, conquering all of that. Well, that is Islam. So we see these headlines of Christians being killed and genocides, and we see churches burning in Europe, and apologists say that if you're concerned about this, you're guilty of bigotry, spreading a Sharia hoax, or conspiracy. They assume that they assure us that terrorism does not represent true Islam. But the terrorists are often yelling Allahu Akbar, and they claim they do represent true Islam. Well, who can tell us what true Islam is? One person, Muhammad. He's the best Muslim that ever lived. His life is called the Sunnah, the way or the example. And it went through 3 stages, and you cannot understand what is going on today unless you understand these 3 stages. He was a religious leader, then a political leader, then a military leader. And so this is the world. Before Muhammad, you have the Byzantine Christian Roman Empire, and see it goes all the way through the Middle East. And then you have the Persian Empire, that is today Iran, and it is Zoroastrian. And they beat each other up for centuries, and they leave a power vacuum. And into that comes Islam. So Muhammad's father dies before he's born. His mother dies when he's 6. His grandfather and guardian dies when he's 8. He's orphaned, taken in by an uncle, Abu Talib. And he's a merchant who takes Muhammad on camel rides, and he hears about different religions. And so one religion was Manichaeism. See the word Mani, M-A-N-I? And this Mani person said that there's little bits of truth in every religion. And so Muhammad would have heard about this. And then there's the Persian Zoroastrian religion that believed paradise was filled full of virgins that would fulfill all the guy's desires. Muhammad heard this, and it got incorporated into his belief system. They also believed in jinns or genies, like 1001 Arabian Nights. And then the pagans in Arabia had a square building called the Kaaba that housed 360 different pagan gods. And the most popular was Hubal, the moon god. And their calendar began with the first sight of the crescent moon over the desert. And they had a rock they thought had fallen from the moon. Now, even in the book of Judges, it talks about Zeba Zalmunna, and they took away the crescent moon, half moon ornaments that were around their necks. Most of the pagan cultures had a female deity and a male deity associated with the sun or the moon. And so they had a rock they thought had fallen from the moon. It's a glass impact rock where a meteor hit the hot desert sand. And well, these pagans kissed this rock, walk around it, and Muhammad kissed this rock, and it got incorporated into his belief system. There were the Sabaeans down in Yemen, and they were into ritual washings and so forth. And then Muhammad could not read. The word Quran means recitation. It's an oral thing. The Jews and Christians were called people of the book. So Muhammad never read the Old Testament, but he heard their oral stories called Talmud and Mishnah. And some of those stories got incorporated into his belief system. He originally had his followers bowing toward Jerusalem for the first 17 months. And then Encyclopedia Britannica says the gospel was known to Muhammad chiefly through apocryphal and heretical sources. So what's apocryphal? Well, the infancy gospel of Thomas, written several centuries after Jesus by someone who knew nothing of Jewish life. It's filled full of so many errors that no scholar takes it serious. Little Harry Potter type stories that Jesus made clay birds and clapped and they flew away, raised a playmate from the dead, spoke from the cradle. There's no place in ancient history that these stories appear other than this infancy gospel that nobody takes serious. Well, Muhammad heard these stories and they got incorporated into Islam. They take them now as fact. And Muhammad thought the Trinity was the Father, Mary, and Jesus. Nobody ever explained to him the Holy Spirit. And then you have a movement started by St. Anthony of the Desert of monasticism, where holy men would live in caves as hermits. And Muhammad heard about this, and I'll tell you a little bit more. One hermit was St. Benedict. He established the rule of Benedict, which was praying at set times of the day. So Muhammad heard about this, praying at set times of the day. So he's 25 years old in 595 AD, and he marries a wealthy widow, Khadijah. She's 40 years old. And so now he doesn't have to work, and he goes out to a cave and prays. and a spirit appears to him and commands him to read. He said, I cannot read. Spirit appears to him a second time, said, read. He said, I cannot read. Happens a third time. And then it squeezed him and he began to recite. And that's how the Quran came to Muhammad. He'd get these verses, he would repeat them till he had it memorized. And you think, well, how can somebody that's illiterate memorize all these verses? Well, in Arabic, they had a little rhyme to them, a little beat, very similar to rap music. So maybe there's a student that can't read, but they memorize rap songs. Thomas Carlyle wrote, Arabs see more method in it than we. Much of it is rhythmic, a kind of wild chanting. And so he goes back to his wife, Khadijah, and he tells her that he thinks he's demon-possessed. In Ibn Ishaq's Sirat Rasul Allah, the first biography of Muhammad, I thought, woe is me, poet or possessed? And so Khadijah, his wife, decides to test the spirit. And according to Ibn Ishaq's Life of Muhammad, Khadijah said to the Apostle Allah, are you able to tell me about the visitant when he comes to you? So when Jibreel, the spirit, came, the Apostle said to Khadijah, this is Jibreel who has just come to me. Get up, O son of my uncle, she said, and sit on my left thigh. The Apostle did so, and she said, can you see him? Yes, he said. Then turn around, sit on my right thigh. He said, can you see him? And when he said he could, she asked him to sit in her lap, and she again asked if he could see him. And when he said yes, she disclosed her form and cast aside her veil while the apostle was sitting in her lap, and she said, can you see him? And he replied, no.